Alright, time for a new theory. But it may not actually be new. I'm pretty sure I've conceived of this before. But in Jay Dreamer's most recent video, A Knock at the Cabin, decoding the movie A Knock at the Cabin, he depicts these four people that come knocking at the cabin door saying, "We're coming in. Now's your last chance to let us in because we're coming in either way." And that these four people represent human characteristics and the energy that's going to come into this world. Just think of that as electromagnetic energy. Greg Braden said if you don't like the word spirit, you can use the word electromagnetic energy and you're pretty much saying the same thing. Or you can think of it as like real, the shit that burns the trees from the inside out, okay? That kind of electromagnetic energy. And so during this Jay Dreamer's presentation, decoding the movie A Knock at the Cabin, he says that when they're knocking on the door saying, "Okay, now's your last chance to let us in because we're coming in either way," he said that cabin represents our world. And those four people represent these energies that are going to come into our world. And we can let them in, we can open the door, but they're coming in either way. So maybe that's what's happening all around us with the plasma fire, including the fake war in the U to the K to the rain with Ruskies. I ain't gonna gibber my speech that much. I don't have enough. Anyway, y'all remember, I've done some videos. Links will be in the description. One of them was called May the Farce Be With You, showing when this war kicked off, they were using video clips from the video game Arma 3. Multiple different news outlets got caught doing this on more than one occasion from the same video game, Arma 3. In another video that I made, where I include the images as the thumbnail photo from within the video, where on a news clip they have a truck driving through Ukraine in the middle of the war zone, and it passes by what? A stormtrooper leaning up against a downed Star Wars craft. They're showing you intentionally, this isn't really a war. This is theatrical. They didn't get caught 2 or 3 times in a row using video game footage to perpetuate the narrative of the idea that there's a war going on. They did that intentionally and used the very same video game 3 different times. For those in the know, so that you know, this isn't really a war. This is something else going on. And if you don't like that, then may the farce be with you. Here, you want some more video footage from the so-called war zone? Of a stormtrooper in full battle gear, the white armor plating with the helmet, the Star Wars helmet, leaned up on the side of a road, leaned up against his crashed X-Wing, or one of the Star Wars craft. And this was broadcast as well on mainstream news and portrayed as if it was video footage from the war zone. So from this, you know there is something theatrical about that. Not really a war going on. Maybe it's the controlled release. Like Jay Dreamer said, we can open the door, because if we don't, it's like waiting for a pressure to build up. And if you don't hit the release valve and let out some of that pressure and just let it keep building and building, once it does finally explode, it's going to be catastrophic. But if we open the release valve of this electromagnetic energy, we can direct it. The solar magnetic amplification causative configurator is said to be able to create and direct the effects of a solar flare and control the timing, location, intensity, and duration of the effects of a solar flare. Just like one of those plasma lamps where you touch the outer glass globe and all these little fingers of plasma that are dancing around inside the globe, they all gravitate towards your finger wherever you touch the globe. something like that happens with our world. As that energy builds up, we got to touch the globe somewhere in order to draw that energy somewhere. And so maybe we've distributed it amongst the different countries, spread it out a little bit. Everyone gets some, and within your country, you direct it to non-populated areas where there won't be the catastrophic effects. And for the most part, 99% of what I've documented as far as plasma fire is out in the middle of nowhere. The only thing it's burning is trees and fence posts. And that's even why EBT says, well, what am I, shilling for big fence post? So, as I've said before, if this energy is directed, and in some cases we know it's directed, like the 5 Secret Service vehicles that Joe Biden lost a couple months back. In some cases we know it's directed, and in all of the other cases, if it's directed in those cases as well, it's being directed out into areas where it will have very little effect on people. And maybe there are certain times when we need to direct a huge amount of this energy, so we've chosen a sacrificial area. Ukraine. I watched a video, I think it was by Vice News anyway, about a week ago I watched a video that said the amount of fire, wildfire, in Russia is more than the combined total of the entire rest of the world. Russia has more wildfire in the year of 2022 than the entire rest of the world combined. Does that make sense? So anyway, the idea here is that it would explain a lot if this were true, that they are bleeding off using a pressure release valve, bleeding off this electromagnetic energy that's charging our world up, because if we let it just keep building and building and building, eventually it's going to blow and it'll be catastrophic. But if we hit the release valve, we can direct it and manage it. This would explain a lot. This would explain like why every single country is silent about the plasma fire. By the way, they're all working in lockstep. Did you forget about the C-19 operation that we had over the last few years? It makes no sense to think that they all worked in unison in lockstep for the C-19 operation, and then suddenly they're butting heads over this war. The war is just as coordinated and orchestrated as the C-19 operation, and both of them are probably directly related to the plasma fire situation. It allowed them to mobilize massive amounts of military. It normalized, you've heard that rights that aren't used and exercised, you lose them, like your right to carry a weapon. If you don't do it and exercise that right and that so-called right, you end up losing it. Well, the government exercised some rights during the C-19 in order to normalize it, so when they need to do it again, you're already well aware. Your constitutional rights mean nothing. There's a clause written right there that unless we declare that it's for the greater good, then we can override and circumvent all of these so-called constitutional rights that we just said you have. It's written right there into the Constitution. Likewise in every other country that thinks they're free and they got their rights and liberties and blah, blah, blah. By exercising this medical martial law tyranny, using something meaningless and insignificant as the mask. That means next time, in the name of the public safety, we can lock down a town, evacuate a town, lock people in a town, whatever we need to do, and override and circumvent standard protocols and procedures in the name of public safety. That's what the C-19 operation did, was normalize and habituate people to the understanding that all your rights go out the window in the name of public safety and the medical martial law tyranny. And next time they can just, under the same guise, under the same premise, it doesn't matter whether or not it's real, they've exercised that authority. And now next time they need to exercise it again, they can quarantine an entire state, an entire city, an entire country And that would be real handy in time of national emergency or international emergency. Each nation has to exercise authority over their citizens so that when we need you to lock down your citizens, you can do it. And they're willing to accept it. And they've been habituated and acclimated to the idea that they have no rights under this state of emergency. So I've shown plasma fire in Ukraine from the wartime footage. I've shown the burn patterns. So maybe the whole staged war with all the footage from the video game Arma 3 and the downed X-Wing fighter with the stormtrooper leaning up to it is actually a cover for the plasma fire. And they've directed it all in that general region. And to some extent, every country has gotten a little bit. Maybe they can't direct it all to one region. So within each region, people are managing the controlled release of this energy by directing it out into fields and ranches and wilderness areas where it's not hitting urban areas. Because if it was not controlled and managed release of plasma fire, if all those plasma fires I've documented over the last 5 years, those hundreds of videos, if those were not directed energy and they were allowed to randomly release wherever it decides to ground itself instead of someone intentionally touching the outside of the plasma globe and saying, ground over here, then we would have seen a lot more things like Paradise, California. Or Cleveland, Ohio. It would have grounded in a city where there's more material, conductive material, more metals. But as it stands, we've only got a couple of those examples and hundreds of examples where I've shown you this shit's coming up, springing forth from the ground, burning shit in the middle of places where it doesn't really have much effect. Not much collateral damage, not much property damage, not much threat to anyone's life when it hits out in a field or in a wilderness area. So it seems, because there's hundreds of those examples and only 2 or 3 examples of where it's hitting an urban area, that it is being directed out into the rural areas. Because we've seen what happens when it hits an urban area. It leaves the trees alone, burns the houses to the ground, and melts the engine block of the cars. So yes, this energy can be directed and used as a weapon. See again those 5 Secret Service vehicles. Or it can be directed in a harmless way to help people, to keep it from releasing naturally on its own accord and being more catastrophic in order to manage the apocalypse. And so, in this most recent video that Jay Dreamers did, called, Decoding of A Knock at the Cabin, he got real animated when he got to the point where he said, you know what, some people say the apocalypse is happening and right now, and no, it's fucking not. He says, you'd know it, and he doesn't normally swear. He doesn't usually get angry and that excited. But when it came to insisting that the apocalypse is not happening right now, he was so adamant he started cussing. And so I left a comment saying, hey, the trees are burning from the inside, and that could be conceived of as the apocalypse that's currently underway. And in that same comment, I said, maybe we opened the door for them and are controlling and managing the controlled release of that energy, allowing it into our world. Just like he said. I know Jay Dreamers is very aware of my content. At one point, he left a comment in one of my videos. So I took that opportunity to reply to him with about 20 links to plasma fire. Because normally you can't leave your own video links in someone else's comment section. Some have it turned on, some have it turned off. For the most part, You cannot leave links to other videos in someone else's comment section, but you can post them in your own comment section. So when he commented in my comment section, I replied with about 20 Plasma Fire videos. I know plenty of people have mentioned my work on his channel. Jeff's showing Plasma Fire. You're talking about the plasma apocalypse and this energy that's going to come into our world. I think your material overlaps. There's a reason he ain't going to say nothing about Plasma Fire, and he's going to insist, no, it's fucking not happening right now. That's his job. J-Dreamers. Archaics. Jason from Archaics. Suspicious Observers. They're all telling you it's coming in 20 to 40 years. While it's happening right now. That's a controlled opposition, if you will. They are controlled in opposition to the cattle freaking out. They don't want the people to respond like spooked, scared animals and stampede. So you keep telling them you manage this narrative and this school of thought by educating, opening up that door, disseminating this information about the plasma apocalypse, but keep them thinking it's happening 20 to 40 years from now when it's actually 2 to 4 years. Maybe that's something Suspicious Observers, Jason from Archaics, and whoever the fuck I was just talking about this whole time. J-Dreamers and his plasma apocalypse. Where did he get all that information? How does he know what he knows and is able to speak it so confidently? And why did he get so adamant and so excited about insisting it's not happening right now? When he knows the trees are burning from the inside, houses are burning to the ground while leaving the trees standing, and the engine blocks of cars are melting. How can you sit there and say it's not happening right now when you know those things? And he knows those things. Because his job is to keep people who now know about plasma apocalypse, the reset, the phoenix cycle, the magnetic pole shift, as Suspicious Observer says. He don't talk about no phoenix, no plasma apocalypse. To him, it's the magnetic pole reversal. It's not a theory, it's a fact, it's a process, it's a cycle. And their job is to manage and control the discussion about this subject and keep people thinking it's 20 to 40 years from now rather than recognizing it's happening right now. That's why J-Dreamers would say, no, it's fucking not. That's his job. And he got so pissed off at the people that are saying it's happening right now, told them, fuck you. Because his job is to keep you from recognizing it's happening right now, control the narrative and the conversation to a future date, 20 to 40 years or however long in the future, to keep everyone who's talking about the plasma apocalypse, the phoenix cycle, or the magnetic pole reversal talking about a future event, not something that's happening right now. Because if the general population saw the trees burning from the inside, houses burning to the ground, entire neighborhoods burning to the ground, while leaving the trees in between the houses standing, and engine blocks of cars melting, if the general population saw that, society as you know it would be over. Like he says in Men in Black, individuals are smart. People are dumb, scared, easily spooked animals. And that's J-Dreamer's job, is to keep the herd from stampeding. Because that's exactly what they would do if they knew the truth about plasma fire. And that's why all of these countries are working in lockstep to say nothing about plasma fire. To keep their own citizens and the citizens of the other countries passive, docile, manageable. If you knew that this was happening, if the general public knew that this was happening, they would become ungovernable. Because they would know Their government has no control over this, so their government would then therefore have no control over them. The government wants you to keep thinking that they can fix the problem, reaction, solution, when they have no solution and this is out of their control. They don't want you to know about it at all. Why do you think you didn't hear anything about those 5 Secret Service vehicles that got hit? So all of the governments want all of the people to not know what's happening while it's happening. And for those that catch wind of some sort of process, some sort of cycle that we go through, magnetic pole reversal, phoenix cycle, plasma apocalypse, for those that do catch wind of this, keep them focused on some future date, insisting that it's not happening right now as we speak. Keep them from seeing it for themselves by keeping it under wraps. But on the other hand, you cannot blame the media and government censorship or YouTube or Twitter or Facebook for the fact that the general population can't see what I can see, hasn't taken it upon themselves to do what I've done. They all had all of the same opportunities that I had, and those of you that have watched this channel have had more opportunities than what I had, because no one came and showed me that the trees around us are burning from the inside. I just noticed, because I wasn't too preoccupied with something else that mattered more to me. And honestly, it's probably because I had already found my implant 8 months before. Like 3 months before. So I wasn't still trying to protect my comfort zone. My comfort zone was already shattered. So I was willing and able to see things for what they are. The psyche of the human population keeps them in denial about what's happening all around us. You can't blame Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, and the government and the media censorship for the fact that the people themselves don't see what I've shown you is happening around us. The people themselves keep their own mind under wraps to protect and preserve their self-image and worldview, their comfort zone. They're comfort junkies. I got booted the fuck out of my comfort zone. My whole self-image and worldview had shattered when I found an implant behind my ear. So a few months later, once I saw plasma fire, I was like, fuck yeah, I see it obvious. Plain as day. Fucking Stevie Wonder could see that the trees are burning from the inside. I've stated this plenty of times. Smart enough to see it and courageous enough to say it. Truth is, it doesn't take a high level of intelligence to be able to see the fucking trees are burning from the inside. It's like a 5-year-old logic and reason test where they show you a picture and say, what's wrong with this picture? And the 5-year-old is supposed to be able to point out that there's a shoe on the ceiling. And that can't be. Shoes don't stick to the ceiling. The general public can't see what a fucking 5-year-old can see and say, the trees are burning from the inside, but unburned on the outside. That can't be. A tree has to burn on the outside first, before the fire can make its way through to the inside. It does not take intelligence. Smart enough to see it, courageous enough to say it is a misnomer. It takes zero amount of smarts to see it. You're just not courageous enough to say it. You're a coward. You seek comfort, not truth. All these truthers, when I deliver them up, the mountain of evidence and truth that I've discovered, they're like gold miners who want to keep panning for gold, looking for little shiny flakes in the water, when I've said, look, a 24 karat fucking mountain right there. More gold than you could ever want. I want to keep mining. What else am I going to do with my day if I just accept that 24 karat mountain you just led me to? I think I'm going to keep sifting for little shiny flakes. These truthers just want to keep on truthing. They're not in it for the truth. They're in it to pacify and pass the time, to virtue signal as if they want some truth. And when you serve them up something so big and heavy as plasma fire that's happening all around them, no thanks. I'm going to keep on looking. For what? For truth. Just like a gold miner that wants to keep sifting that panning for gold, looking for little shiny flakes in the water, when you've pointed out a fucking mountain of 24-karat truth. They're cowards. Smart enough to see it and courageous enough to say it is a combination of characteristics that are necessary for someone to do what I've done. And smart enough to see it is 1%. Courageous enough to say it is the other 99% of the combination. Most people are not courageous enough to exit their comfort zone, to see the truth and accept it for what it is. I had already been booted the fuck out of my comfort zone. My self-image and worldview shattered. There was no comfort zone for me to go back to when I found this implant. And my family fucking turned on me like robots. Like programmed fucking Agent Smiths. So that's why I was able to see it and say it no problem. The rest of you have got something coming. It's gonna be like you all discover a fucking microchip in your head too and know that you've never been free. You're on a human farm. You've been tracked and monitored and traced your whole fucking life. And once you discover that, your whole world's coming to an end. Your self-image and worldview and your comfort zone is why you can't see the world around you burning from the inside. And everyone will say, well, I had no choice. What was I supposed to do? I couldn't have done anything. There's one guy out there that's going to show you the contrast between what you chose to do and what you could have done. And if it weren't for that one guy showing you the contrast, all of you would claim, what could I have done? I couldn't do anything. I had no choice. I had to go to work. You would all claim that God is unjust, that the test wasn't fair, that there's nothing you could have possibly done. Except for that one guy that showed you what you could have done, and therefore what you chose to do as an alternative. Sit on your ass, look the other way. Just like people that look the other way from war in Afghanistan and Iraq and Syria and Libya and Egypt, and the list goes on, because it's not happening to me. So what the fuck do I care? Until it's your house that burns down, you don't give a fuck. That's who you are. And that's what you're gonna pay for. Until it affects me and my personal comfort and convenience, why do I care? That's someone else's problem. It is a pathological illness, a mental illness of the general population that has been revealed through plasma fire. I've said it a bunch of times. A greater phenomenon than the trees burning from the inside out is that the people themselves choose not to see it. Carry on with the rest of their day as business as usual. No, I don't see that. Doesn't affect me. Nothing's gonna change my world, as the Beatles sang. That's what you're insisting on. Doesn't matter what it is. You're gonna keep going through life, no matter what truth presents itself to you. You've proven this. Plasma fire has revealed the people for who they truly are. Prior to that, I could not have imagined that the world could be burning up around us from the inside and only one guy could see it. That is paranormal and supernatural. You cannot explain that from within the realm of what is natural or normal. There is no psychological or sociological dynamic that explains one guy being able to see it and everyone else choosing to remain blind to it. That is supernatural, not natural. Paranormal, not normal. But for the grace of God, there go I, with that veil over my eyes. In this cultural filtration process that we are going through, like James True has called it, psychological eugenics. That's the good thing about the C-19 operation. It just killed off the dumb ones. Those that weren't the author of their own authority. And I said on my way to Missouri, You're all going to have to go through this too, and everyone's getting a chance to show their true colors. That's what we're going through. Plasma fire is just as much of a cultural filtration device as C19 to reveal your true colors, the true content of your character, through a stimulus and a response. And through that stimulus and your response, it is a process of self-selection. God doesn't sit on high saying, wheat, tear, winner, loser. You chose. You determine where you're going to end up in this cultural filtration process. It is a process of self-selection. Plasma fire is just as great of a filtration device, and even more so, than the C19 operation. To reveal your true colors, the content of your character, the fiber of your being. Everyone's getting a chance to show their true colors, and you're all going to have to go through this too. So what better way to choose when you only have, see if you can see the scorched trench here.